Our feelings are not something to shy away from or try to turn off or try to replace with positive thinking. No, we're not saying that at all. Feel your feelings. That's the juice of life. You cannot be damaged. Every single experience in your life is coming through your thinking, whether it be, a sexual perpetrator or the person who's teasing you or the person who's bullying you. That's on them because behavior always comes from the thinker. You have to have a thought, feel it, because we feel what we think, whether we realize it or not. And it's verifiable. If you check it out within your own life, you'll recognize that that's actually very true. In my youth, I would make choices not realizing that they were choices. I would think, whatever was on my mind, so to speak, that's what I went with. But there's a different place to go for what we talk about as wisdom. We have like a built-in crystal ball that is always there and always dependable. So how do you know the difference? How do you tell the difference when you're caught up in a situation, whether it be you're at a party with drugs and alcohol? You have a sense of knowing. And I'm going to give a really dramatic example of this. It's a story that Dr. Pettit tells. He was called into a jail to evaluate a young person. This person had shot his principal at his school. And Bill tells the story that the boy said to him, as I was walking down the hallway with the gun in my hand, a voice said to me, you don't have to do this. I mean, obviously it wasn't really a voice, he wasn't hallucinating, but something told him, you don't have to go through with this. But he was paying attention to that cacophony in his brain, telling him all the wrongs that had been done to him, and that's what he was following. And look at how that changed his life. He said to Bill, if only I knew to listen to that voice, my life would be totally different today. We think we know how things are supposed to go and how, what's going to give us the best outcome in life, but we don't. It's our wisdom. It's the quiet voice that will point us in the right direction. That's an amazing thing to recognize, that we don't choose the thinking that comes to our mind, but we're designed so that we can evaluate if that's a good idea or not. Shake loose from what our thoughts, what our brain activity is telling us. Just get into an I don't know state of mind. The brain is great to get you from point A to point B. It's way overused. It's kind of like trying to use scissors to nail a nail in the wall. But what is efficient, what you can count on all the time, is A, this wisdom, and B, knowing who you really are. We have this deeper nature that cannot be harmed. Our soul, whatever words you put to it, that cannot be harmed. O'Dalley's had a very difficult situation where she was molested by a cousin. And when she tried to tell people, they didn't even believe her. The old way, and in my field of psychology, the old way was that you had to dig it out, you had to work through it, you had to get past it. But thank heavens, Sydney Banks realized that every single experience in your life is coming through your thinking. You cannot be damaged. Mind, thought, and consciousness work together to bring formless energy into the world of form through the ability to think. It's so profound and yet so simple when people see it. If I was armed with this understanding back then, I would have made different choices and I would have had different outcomes. I also understand from the principles that it wouldn't make sense to feel badly and remorseful that I didn't know this sooner in life. And I always recommend listening to Sid Banks. And one particular book of Sid's, it's called Enlightened Gardener and the Enlightened Gardener Revisited. I think you have to read The Enlightened Gardener first to get the characters and all, because it's written as a novel and it's a fun read. But The Enlightened Gardener Revisited, I mean, there are such pearls of wisdom in there. It's a mind blower. Another quote of Sid's was, if people could just know to not be afraid of their feelings, we would have a different world. And honestly, the more people who gain this understanding, we will have a different world.